In the Thompson family, success wasn't just encouraged, it was a tradition carved in stone. To earn your stripes, you followed Dad's well-worn path into Wall Street. David and Michael, my older brothers, embodied that legacy perfectly. They wore power suits and earned millions as investment bankers, while I, the youngest and the odd one out, preferred hoodies and hunched over lines of code in my basement. Just try to look successful, Mom would plead before every family gathering. Today, though, things were different. Forbes had just published an article that redefined what success looked like in the Thompson family. But to understand how I got here, you need the whole story. Growing up, life in the Thompson household meant being surrounded by Wall Street legends. My father, Richard Thompson, wasn't just another banker. He was the man who foresaw the 2008 crash 6 months before it hit and made his clients billions in the aftermath. Naturally, my brothers were groomed to follow in his footsteps. Sharp minds, sharper suits, and the kind of swagger that comes with knowing you're destined to win. Then there was me, Alex Thompson, the oddball who'd rather build computers than analyze balance sheets. He's going through a phase, Dad would assure his friends at the country club whenever they saw me buried in my laptop instead of holding a golf club. Once he sees what real success looks like, he'll come around. Except I didn't. While David and Michael spent their summers interning at top banks, I taught myself Python and JavaScript, sketching out dreams of creating something meaningful. My room became a tangled mess of wires, circuit boards, and coding books. Mom hated it. Alexandra, she'd say, using my full name whenever she was most disappointed. There's a trust fund waiting for you. All you need to do is follow the plan your father designed. Why make life harder for yourself? Ah, yes, the trust fund. Each of us had one, a golden prize waiting at the end of a 5-year stint at a top-tier investment bank. David got his at 27. Michael followed at 28. Mine, however, remained untouched, a shiny incentive I refused to chase. Instead, I took out loans to study computer science at MIT. While my brothers were climbing the corporate ladder, I was knee-deep in algorithms, building something that felt like it could actually matter. That something was Quantum Shield. It started as a college project, born from a simple idea. What if we could make quantum encryption affordable for small businesses? Everyone was focused on protecting massive corporations from future quantum threats. But no one seemed to care about smaller players who couldn't afford cutting-edge security. I saw an opportunity and seized it. During my junior year, I worked late into the night, fueled by cheap coffee and instant noodles. My classmates thought I was crazy when I turned down a lucrative internship at Dad's firm to keep working on my project. You're throwing away your future, Dad said during a heated phone call. Thompson men belong in finance. Not this one, I replied before hanging up and returning to my code. Things reached a boiling point at Christmas dinner 3 years ago. David had just made partner at Goldman and Michael had closed a record-setting merger deal. Naturally, Mom wanted to celebrate at the country club, inviting half of Wall Street to gloat. I showed up in my usual attire, jeans, a hoodie, and my laptop bag slung over my shoulder. I'd just hit a breakthrough with my encryption algorithm and didn't want to lose momentum, dinner or not. Couldn't you at least pretend to be successful for once? Mom whispered harshly as I sat down, ignoring the disdainful glances from guests. Leave him alone, Margaret, Dad sighed, barely sparing me a glance. Some people need to learn the hard way. Ever the golden boy, David chimed in. Actually, we might have a solution. There's an opening in our tech support department. It's nothing glamorous, but it could get Alex's foot in the door. Michael nodded. Yeah, sis, time to join the real world. You can keep coding as a hobby. Something inside me snapped. I scanned the table, taking in my brother's smug grins, Dad's Rolex gleaming in the soft light, and Mom's hopeful expression. I don't need your payday job, I said, standing. I'm building something that's going to change the world of cybersecurity. The room went silent, then erupted in laughter. Cybersecurity? Michael snorted. Big banks already dominate that space. What could you possibly offer that Goldman's tech team hasn't already thought of? I wanted to explain Quantum Shield, to tell them about the breakthrough approach I'd developed, but Dad waved me off dismissively. Enough, Alexandra. You're embarrassing yourself. Either get serious about your future or stop coming to these events. I met his gaze and calmly replied, I am serious about my future. It just doesn't look like the one you imagined. Then I walked out, leaving their judgmental stares behind. That night, back in my tiny basement apartment, I made a promise to myself. I would succeed, not by following their blueprint, but by creating my own. Unbeknownst to them, I'd already secured my first client, a small local bank willing to test my quantum encryption software. They found me through a tech forum where I'd been sharing my research. The next 6 months were a whirlwind of coding and coffee-fueled nights. Eventually, I brought on 2 brilliant developers from MIT who shared my vision. Our operation grew from a cramped basement into something real, something worth fighting for. The turning point came when a tech blog featured us in an article about revolutionizing cybersecurity for small businesses. Within days, our inbox overflowed with inquiries from companies eager to learn more. That's when the venture capitalists came knocking. The first venture capital meeting felt surreal. There I was, pitching Quantum Shield to a room full of seasoned investors, dressed in the only decent outfit I owned, a thrift store blazer and mismatched pants. But once I began explaining the technology, nerves faded away, replaced by confidence. So, you're telling me you've developed a way to make quantum encryption accessible to small businesses? Sarah Chen, a partner at Aurora Ventures, asked. Her sharp eyes stayed locked on me as I walked them through the technical specs. Not just accessible, practical and affordable, I said, pulling up our latest test results. Our clients are seeing 99.99% security efficacy at a fraction of the cost of traditional solutions. The room buzzed with low murmurs. I could see the gears turning as they calculated the market potential. Small and medium-sized businesses made up over 90% of global companies. Sooner or later, all of them would need protection against quantum threats. Sarah leaned forward. What's your valuation? I named a number that made my heart pound, $50 million. It was bold, maybe reckless, but I knew the value of what we built. She didn't flinch. We're in, $20 million for 25% equity. Just like that, everything changed. Within weeks, we moved out of my basement and into a real office downtown. The team expanded from 3 to 30, then 50. Each new hire was someone who shared our vision, making cutting-edge quantum security available to everyone, not just corporate giants. The growth was staggering. Every month, more clients signed on: regional banks, healthcare providers, law firms, anyone who needed serious protection without breaking the bank. Word spread fast. Soon, Quantum Shield was making waves in the tech world. It didn't take long for news to reach my family. Michael called first. "So little sis," he said, trying to sound casual. "Heard you've been stirring things up in tech. Why didn't you tell us?" I leaned back in my office chair, gazing out at the Boston skyline. "Would you have listened?" He chuckled, but it lacked warmth. "Come on, Alex. We're family. Look, some of my clients are interested in your encryption solution. Maybe we could collaborate. I can introduce you to some big players." "You mean like that foot in the door tech support job you offered?" I couldn't resist twisting the knife a little. Awkward silence. Then, in a strained voice, he said, "That was different. We didn't know what you were working on back then. But now, Dad's hosting his annual investor dinner next week. You should come, show everyone what you've built." I almost said no, almost. But something inside me, the part that had always wanted them to see me for who I was, said yes. The dinner was just as I remembered. Opulent, full of crystal, designer suits, and Wall Street egos. This time, though, the whispers weren't about me being a disappointment. They were about my unexpected success. When I walked in wearing a Taylor Armani suit, heads turned for an entirely different reason. "Alexandra," Mom greeted me with an air kiss, clearly stunned. "You look successful." Dad, as usual, held court at the center of the room, but I caught the moment he noticed me. His expression flickered with something unreadable. Was it surprise? Pride? Maybe a hint of regret. "Ah, the prodigal daughter returns," he called out as I approached, finally ready to admit the real world isn't as simple as coding computer games. His cronies chuckled politely. I smiled, thinking about Sarah Chen's most recent email regarding our valuation. "Actually, Dad, I'm here to talk business," I said smoothly. "Several of your clients have approached us about implementing Quantum Shield. Thought it'd be better to discuss it directly." His brow furrowed. "Quantum what?" Before I could answer, James Morrison, one of Dad's biggest clients, spoke up. "Oh, Richard, you haven't heard? Alexandra's company is pioneering quantum encryption for small businesses. We're rolling it out across all our branches next month. Dad's face paled slightly, while David and Michael exchanged anxious glances. That's impossible, David blurted. Goldman's tech division has been working on quantum encryption for years, and they haven't cracked mass market affordability. James smiled, clearly enjoying himself. Maybe they should have spent less time on Wall Street and more time in basements with brilliant minds like your sister. The room fell silent. Mom clutched her champagne glass a little too tightly. How much? Dad's voice was strained. How much what? I asked, feigning innocence. The company, what's it worth? I took a slow sip of champagne, savoring the moment. Our last valuation put us at $300 million. But that was before the Morrison contract. Sarah Chin thinks we'll hit $500 million by the end of the quarter. Mom's champagne flute slipped from her hand, shattering on the floor. No one moved to clean it up. Sarah Chen, Michael asked, his voice cracking. From Aurora Ventures. She turned down our tech fund 3 times. She has high standards, I replied with a shrug. Dad's face turned a deep shade of red. Why wasn't I informed? I could have helped, made introductions, guided you. You mean like offering me a job in tech support? Or guiding me by dismissing my work as a waste of time? Or introducing me to people by telling me to stop embarrassing the family? The silence was deafening, but I wasn't done. You know what's ironic? All those years you spent teaching David and Michael about market gaps and seizing opportunities, I was the one who listened. I saw a gap in quantum encryption and filled it. I seized an opportunity everyone else missed. I did exactly what you always preach about success. I set my glass down with a soft clink. I just didn't do it your way. The morning after the dinner, my phone was flooded with notifications. Someone at the party had leaked our valuation to TechCrunch, and their article had gone viral. Wall Street family's failure builds $500 million tech empire. I was at my desk, scrolling through the press coverage when the door to my office flew open. David stormed in without so much as a knock, looking disheveled, tie loosened, hair slightly mussed. Not the polished Goldman partner I was used to seeing. We need to talk, he said, dropping into the chair across from me. About what? About getting in on this. He pulled a folder from his briefcase and slid it toward me. I've drafted some proposals. Michael and I could help take Quantum Shield public. With our connections. Stop, I interrupted, holding up a hand. David, when was the last time you even asked what Quantum Shield does? He blinked, clearly caught off guard. It's encryption software, right? For small businesses. That's like saying Goldman Sachs is just a bank. Technically true, but missing the entire point. I turned my laptop around and pulled up our latest project. We're not just protecting data. We're revolutionizing how small businesses defend themselves in the quantum age. Every algorithm, every line of code has been designed to make unbreakable encryption accessible to everyone, not just corporate giants. But with our help, you still don't get it. I sighed, closing the laptop. I don't need your help, David. More importantly, I don't want it. This company succeeded because it's not a Thompson venture. He leaned back, silent for a moment, then said quietly, Dad's furious, you know. He thinks you've betrayed the family legacy. I laughed, a sharp edge to the sound. The family legacy of making rich people even richer? I'm protecting small businesses from quantum competing threats. I'm helping local banks secure their customers' life savings. That's a legacy I'm proud to build. David stared at me for a long moment before standing. You've changed, he said, almost grudgingly. But maybe that's not a bad thing. He left without another word, but there was something different in his expression. Understanding, maybe, or respect. It was hard to tell with my brothers. The next few weeks were a whirlwind. Major tech outlets clamored for interviews and investment offers flooded in. But the biggest shock came when the White House's cybersecurity team reached out to discuss implementing Quantum Shield for government-contracted small businesses. That's when Dad finally broke his silence. He showed up at my office unannounced, looking older than I remembered. Gone was the commanding figure who had once filled every room with his presence. Now, he seemed uncertain. Your mother showed me the Forbes article, he said, settling into the same chair David had occupied weeks earlier. And I've been thinking about what you said at the dinner. About spotting market gaps and seizing opportunities. He picked up one of the awards on my desk, Innovator of the Year from MIT Technology Review. You were right. You did exactly what I taught your brothers, just not in the way I expected. I said nothing, waiting for him to continue. I spent so long convinced there was only one path to success, my path. I couldn't see that you were blazing your own better one. He set the award down carefully. I was wrong, Alexandra, and I'm sorry. The words hung in the air, years of expectations and disappointments crystallizing into this moment. You know, I said finally, we've developed a new feature that could modernize some of your clients' security systems. If you're interested, I could walk you through it. A small smile tugged at his lips. I'd like that. We spent the next hour discussing business, technology, and the future. For the first time, he listened without interrupting or trying to steer the conversation. I outlined Quantum Shield's vision, and he actually understood. Last week, we went public. The IPO exceeded all expectations, pushing our valuation well beyond $500 million. As I rang the NASDAQ opening bell, I scanned the crowd. There was my team, the brilliant minds who believed in this vision from the start. Sarah Chen, beaming with pride at her investment success. And in the front row, my family, Mom wiping away tears, David and Michael grinning like kids, and Dad recording everything on his phone, his free hand giving me a thumbs up. Later, at the celebration dinner, ironically held at the same country club where my dreams were once mocked, Michael pulled me aside. Remember when I offered you that tech support job? He asked, shaking his head. God, I was such an idiot. Yes, you were, I replied with a smirk. But hey, at least you've realized it now. He laughed. Seriously though, what you've built, it's incredible. You proved us all wrong. Mom was glowing, proudly showing off magazine covers featuring her brilliant daughter. Even David had started learning to code just to better understand what his sister's company did. As for Dad, last month he gave a commencement speech at his alma mater. His topic, Innovation Beyond Boundaries, Why the Next Generation Needs to Think Differently. This morning, I sat in my office staring at an old photo from that Christmas dinner when I walked out. Next to it lay today's Wall Street Journal with the headline, Quantum Shield Revolutionizes Small Business Security, How One Woman's Vision Changed the Industry. The trust fund Dad set up for me years ago, still untouched. Some might call that crazy, given its worth. But I prefer the fortune I built myself, the one that came from believing in my vision when no one else did. They say success is the best revenge, but I've learned it's not about revenge. It's about proving to yourself that your dreams were valid, your path was right, and that sometimes the biggest risk is not taking one at all. When young entrepreneurs ask for advice, I tell them what I wish I'd heard. Success doesn't look the same for everyone. Find your own path, believe in your vision, and don't let anyone, not even family, define what you can achieve. As for being the family's biggest failure, turns out failure is just success waiting for the right time to be understood. And understanding, like success, comes to those who work for it.